All right. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right, very good. If you have to speak up a little louder, man, you're going to be talking today. Yeah, welcome everybody. We started a little bit late, but Nate Robinson here. Yes, the dream. I've got another person on the stream here, someone I think a lot about, and he's going to share some insights today on his real talk finances. So, like I said, I own the channel. I'm here, very proud of him. He gives me all the inspiration. I don't know where this is going to go. But we're going to have some fun and make it real. Okay, Rob. So
All
just go ahead
right.
and give me just a couple of things. Your elevator intro take about a couple of minutes. Who you are, what are you doing career-wise, etc. Then we'll move on to the agenda here.
All right. Well, I mean, just keep it short. Just joined the military at a young age, straight out of high school. That was my best option at the time, using them to pay for my college degree. And along the way, I figured I want to get free from having to work for anybody. So I became more passionate about finances because I was tired of being broke. That's really what drove that. So now I'm in a position where I have like 20 months before I retire. So I'm just trying to, everything that I do now is what if I was a civilian, right? So I apply that to when I go to the gym, even when I'm running on the track. Like if it's not what I want to do when I retire, then I just don't do it, So I would tell you, definitely moved around a lot, had some good experiences, but what really drove that coming from a small town, I just knew what I didn't want to be around, and that's no knock to Barnwell, South Carolina. Shout out to the 803, but I knew I wanted to explore and have a different view on life. And I knew money would help that, and I don't like when people say money isn't everything because it's not, but it affects almost everything, so you have to acknowledge that. But it just drives me. And obviously, I drew some inspiration from you. For those who don't know, that's my dad. So, I
Yeah,
learned some things from him and some things from my mom as well. But the other third was me and God.
definitely.
So,
Okay. Well, that's good. Okay, well, I'll tell you what, Rob is just like me too. So, bottom line is, we're going to try to orchestrate this to make sure that the viewers can get some of the best value out of this content. So, I know you stroll a little bit ahead in terms of why you chose to focus on finance, but I want you to go into a little bit of detail. And again, we've got a couple of questions here, so we'll keep you on track. And, I'm going to ask you why you chose to focus on finance, your financial goals, be as specific as you possibly can, and then
okay.
who is your target market, your methodology, et cetera. So let's go back up and talk again. Why did you choose to focus on finance when so many people, other people, especially your age, even when you first joined the military, tend to be very fearful? It's almost like they want to keep it underground so they don't have to deal with it. So, what
Oh,
experiences you had that chose you to focus on finance? And again, you got a podcast, Real Talk Finances, so we're being real here. Let's go.
mhm. Well, I mean, I don't want to be too real, just out of respect of you and your channel. I'm not going to curse as much, but I will tell you this, Dad. Just growing up, um, I feel like I learned at an early age, like it sucks to always have to suppress your desires, what you really want. And as I gotten older, I realized like there's things that I want and it costs money, and I need to be okay with that. I can't keep. It's okay to live below your means if it's for a goal, right? But I would tell you specifically, I got tired of asking my mom for money. I knew I wasn't getting none from you, and I appreciate that. It made me to the man I am today. But when my granddaddy died back in '96, I quote unquote became the man in the house, right? And I really learned, like, man, like you can love all you want, but if you don't have money, you have to put food on the table. You have to do things, and that kind of removed that filter off my eyes to realize like life is real. Like
Yeah.
you still got to be able to keep things together. And I was like 13 at the time. And along with that, I remember getting my first job at Shoe Show. I got fired on my day off. That's some stuff off Friday. I ain't even gonna go into that, but I got tired of always just feeling like I need to rely on other people to float me. So specifically about the podcast, age wise, I mean, I would say it's for everybody, but the reality is people that's way older than me, they're not listening to me. I'm too young for them, right? I don't have enough experience, but I would say I have an old soul, and I've definitely learned from those who are older than me. And I've soaked that up because I don't want to struggle. Can I struggle and grow and get through it? Yes, but anything that's hard, you're not going to sustain. You're not going to stick with it. So I'm over that whole challenge. Like I just try and make things easy. So, and in terms of why finances, Dad, even right now, statistically speaking, 80% of Americans still struggle and live paycheck to paycheck. You can Google it. It was in the 70s, but now it's in the 80s. And I mean, with this pandemic that hit, a lot of people have been stripped of what security they thought they had. So it's one of those things like through life and experiences, I've become as transparent as possible to where I enjoy feeling uncomfortable, but I don't want that to be the norm, right? Just enough to grow. And then, you get comfortable with that new norm. And for me, finances has been my tool to have that freedom of saying this is temporary. I'm not going to do this again, and I understand a lot of people, if we speaking with the statistics that I just said, at least 20% of people get it, but then the masses don't. So anything finances related is always going to be a demand and supply for it, because regardless of people, if they don't want to acknowledge it or not, they know that if it's something that they struggle with, it's only going to get worse or it can get better. It's just like fitness. I'm in the fitness too. And just like finances, it's a behavior thing. You can do the math and the equation all you want, but if you don't keep your impulses in check, that's the stuff that I love, because it really keeps me honest with myself. When I look in the mirror, or if I look at my bank account, I treat my net worth as a report card of, am I trending the way that I want to go or not? And yeah, I like to have some fun along the way. It's nice to go shopping and not have to worry about debt. And they talk about Black Friday. I feel like Black Friday has been here since March. There's a lot of stuff been on sale for a couple months now.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Yeah, but it just makes life easier. And again, just getting away from the rat race, it just really drives me. And I can't even tell you where it started specifically, because I remember having those conversations with you when I first joined the military, about, this was back when I just had a checkbook, and I wrote a check and I had to cash it. That's how I got money. So we talking way before debit cards and all that, so I don't know, but Dad, I was just tired of being broke, and I was tired of not feeling comfortable talking about money either. And again, I don't talk about money to brag or flash. I talk about it because when you look in other cultures outside of the Black community, they figured it out. They have these conversations. They talk about credit and leveraging other assets to create more assets. Whereas sometimes, and it's not as bad as it used to be, but I feel like back in the day, we didn't talk about it as much. We just kind of kept our heads down and was happy with the crumbs that we were left. Whereas now, with the internet being the way it is, there's almost no reason for anybody to be broke unless they just want to hold themselves accountable. And it's a tough pill to swallow. People don't like hearing that,
Yeah, well, I think in all fairness, since I've got you by a couple of decades, I think in addition to them not really knowing about it, and in most groups, I mean, there are whites and blacks, depending upon where you grew up and where you're raised, all of us sort of struggle with just basically, like you said, keeping your head down to the grindstone, because we have to struggle from day to day. Now with the internet, or really the education systems that have really improved so much, it makes no sense for no one, regardless of what race, creed, color they're a part of, to actually suffer or learn, or I'm sorry, have to live, from paycheck to paycheck. So I appreciate where you put that. Now we got to segue a little bit into, your financial goals. You can just do high level. There's no necessary details, just your financial goals, since you are going to retire here in about the next 2 years. So,
okay.
What are your financial goals?
So work will be an option. I told you. So for those of you not in the military, there's a program called, the acronym is CSP. It's a career building program. So it allows you to get out of the military 6 months ahead of your date of retirement, so you can do an internship. And I'm just doing that because I want to get out of the military sooner and get set up. And so for me, it's not necessarily to get a job lined up, but it is good to test that market while still getting paid for the military. But I want work to be an option. Like the podcast that I was talking about earlier, that might be my job if it continues to grow, and it would be nice to just work for myself and be able to have conversations with people that just doing something that makes me feel alive. And I don't knock a 9-to-5, but one of the funniest quotes that I've come across, and I'm paraphrasing now because I can't remember it specifically. It says, remain loyal to a job and work 8 or 9 hours so you can become the boss one day and work 9 to 14 hours. That's the typical idea about it, and pretty much you're becoming a slave to making somebody else rich. And some people are okay with that, and that's fine. I don't knock them, because everybody's idea of success and freedom is different. But I know mine is, like, just before we got back linked up, I was playing Call of Duty on the couch, just relaxing. Like, whatever I want to do, that's freedom to me, and being able to afford that. So yes, I've definitely made some sacrifices, but it's really been worth it. So financially speaking, I know I'm gonna have a certain amount of money in liquid in my savings account to go towards my house, which I plan to just buy like a 1-story, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, pay it off within 15 years, so I can go back to being debt free. And then on top of that, have some money in my brokerage account, my TSP, which for those who don't know, the TSP is a Roth account, or traditional. It's a 401k plan for military or federal employers. So those are like some of my nest eggs that I've been working on for a while, but just having the option, and obviously with retirement every month too. So
Right.
specifically speaking, those are my seeds that will allow me just to do what I want. And I don't feel like you need $1 million or so to retire,
Yeah.
especially if you're drawing retirement already. It's just all about how you manage it. And I don't have an expensive lifestyle either. That's another thing. So you top that with being debt free. It does make it easier to just navigate and move around and do what you want. And
Right.
Dad, I'll tell you, I feel like a lot of people could actually retire, but it's rather they're keeping up with their current expenses or they just want so much. And it's okay to embrace your wants, like I was saying earlier with my desires. But I do feel like be realistic. Like for me, freedom is way more important than having things.
Right.
Like having a
Definitely.
nice car gets old after a while. I remember when I got the Corvette back in
Oh
'09, that was
yeah.
my
Tell
dream
me about
car,
it.
but I was paying $630 a month. So within a year, I was like, I got to pay this off. Yeah, I can keep paying it every month, but that's not fun. I could be putting the money towards something else. And it worked out perfectly because by the time I became debt free, and you told me about the TSP, that was money that car payment had already maxed out my Roth more than enough. And I was like, man, now I can build an asset that if one day down the road I want to get another dream car, I can
Right.
just use my asset to pay for it versus my own income,
Exactly.
So
That's pretty good.
going
Yeah.
through that
Yeah.
growth.
Right. Okay, that's perfect. I know earlier you'd mentioned that you felt basically because of your age that not too many people older than you could really learn. I sort of disagree because I think what some people can do, especially if you start talking, you're 30, 36 now, so you got a couple more years. Really, the folks in their 40s, early 40s, are the ones that really wake up and say, my God, the light bulb is on because I've got 20 more years of a job that I hate. Maybe I
Mm,
can make a quick turnaround now. As we both know, it's never too early to get started. The key thing is
yeah.
you just have to get started. So really, let's go back and take a short look again at, who is your current target market, and why did you choose them?
Well, I would have to say right now it would be 18 years old and maybe up to my age because that's what I'm around every day. So I'm a
Yeah,
military training leader in the Air Force. And when people go through basic training and they graduate, we deal with them in the dormitory. So essentially it's like an RA in a college dormitory or another form of supervision or oversight for the airmen. So that's what I'm around every day. And I talk to them about finances because I feel like if I knew what I knew at their age, I would be even further ahead. So that's my way of trying to pay it forward. But I've realized too, you can't save everybody. So
right,
I run out of energy by constantly trying to tell people things that they just might not be ready for because I do feel like with that being my target age, I know ignorance does come with that because when I was young, you got to
oh
give
yeah,
people time to grow
definitely,
up. When I was young,
yeah,
I wasn't trying to think about finances. I was just
yeah,
trying to have fun. That's why I was broke.
right,
I felt
right,
like when I get older, I got time to get this stuff together for the next couple of years. I just want to be fresh, look good. And yeah, meanwhile, I had terrible hygiene. I was always broke.
right,
And I mean, I just didn't have my priorities together, man. I was a scrub, riding on the passenger side, but I was dressed to impress.
yep,
You know what I mean? So you just have to go through that. So I pick and choose who I talk to, and I always put it out there when we give our briefs about finances. For those interested, you can find me here. That way, I'm talking to people that are interested versus feeling like I'm trying to sell something to somebody.
right.
You know
No,
what I
that
mean?
makes a lot of sense. Now, you've gotten a little bit into the next question I was going to ask you in terms of, what is your methodology? What is your process that you use, when you're trying to help your market transform from where you once were to what you see they are now to where they should be from a
Uh,
financial
trans
perspective?
Transparency is definitely the key for me. I talk about my $50 lesson. That's one of my episodes on my podcast. So basically, short version, I asked my supervisor for $50 so I can buy a pair of Jordans, and I couldn't afford them. So that's why I asked him to loan me the $50. And he was like, so basically, you want to buy a pair of shoes that you can't afford, and you're going to turn right around and be broke a couple weeks before payday. And I thought about it. I was like, yeah, you know, hey, it makes sense to me. I was going to look good. But then after having those shoes for barely a week, I was like, I feel stupid because I can't even really go anywhere and spend money because I don't even have money to spend. And so that really lit a fire under my ass. And I think within about 3 weeks, I had actually paid him back and saved my first $200 going into the next payday. That was a foreign feeling for me. I didn't know what it was like to have money in my bank account before payday. I always thought it had to zero out for some reason. I don't know, like some balance scales or something. So I tell that story to airmen so they can understand, like, listen, I've been there. I know what it's like to be broke, you know, and even for those who aren't broke, I know what it's like to feel like your money isn't growing fast enough because all you're doing is saving, you know. So that's the next step we talk about, is saving. So I go over a simple budget with them, but I break the budget down to where they can actually see what their rate of savings is, because I feel like that's very important. There's a chart Mr. Money Mustache posted years ago, and I still have it with me, where it breaks down based upon the percentages that you save, that equates to how many years you have to work before retirement. So I feel like when these airmen, well, I'm not even gonna say airmen, when these kids see these numbers, their eyes just open up. It's like, man, I was always saving money, but I didn't know the end goal could result with me being able to be in a position to retire before I even hit 20 years in the military, you know, and that really kind of moves the train for them, because otherwise, if they just think about from a 401k perspective, well, I got to wait until I'm 59 and a half to touch it. That's not fun. You know, you kind of lose people, but when you tell them you can build up a bunch of liquidity, whether it's solidified or invested, you know, they start to look at it differently. So those are the steps that I do. And then from there, we talk about TSP and just other things too. And I will tell you this, with everything that happened back in March, I use that as an example because COVID is going to be relevant for a while now. I tell them, like, when people talk about how they lost money in their 401k, well, they didn't lose anything unless they sold. But then on the other side, it's a good time to buy if you have a brokerage account, because now you could buy on both sides of the fence and make money as it goes back up on both sides of the fence, versus just sitting with your arms crossed, waiting on your 401k to come back, you know? So I would tell you right now, if the market goes down again, I'll be right back in there just buying up on the other side, because I know it's going to come back, you know?
Right. And, you know, and to my son also, I mean, I really want him to be aware of too. We have this discussion pretty often when I complain about getting less than 1% on my savings account because I'm old school. Yeah, I'm fully retired, fiscally secure. And he always reminds me, Dad, what do you expect? It's a savings account. So, I mean, I've dabbled and dabbled, but as I said, he continues to be my little mentor and my little hero in that perspective, because I like to see what he's doing. He'll be in a better position when he gets out 2 years from now than I was when I retired at 44. Okay, we're going to get closer to closing here now. Give me 3 things that you want our audience, because it's yours too now that you're on this session with me, to understand or remember about their finances, you know, from your perspective, just the top 3 things that you want anyone who's listening or watching to know and remember.
Well, it sounds cliche, but it is honest. Figure out your why. I know what my why is, but everybody's why is differently. Some people just want more time with their family. You know, they're not really interested with securing a 6-figure job. For them, it's just being able to afford to work a job that applies them more flexibility, right? So figuring out your why as to why you would want to get better with your finances would be the first thing, because if you don't have a why, you're not going to stick with it. And 2, once you figure out your why, make it easy. You know, a lot of people seem to applaud themselves by complicating something. And then it's like a badge of honor, like, man, I can really do this. I know it's hard, but I like the grind, hustle. But our brains aren't wired to work that way. So every day now you're constantly fighting your natural current of flow. You know what I mean? Like, if it's not, if you can't make it easy, it's not sustainable. You're not going to stick with it. Easy is meaning you can roll out of the bed, go on about your day, and regardless if you're having a bad day or not, you can still stick with it because it's easy, right? And I don't attach that with being lazy. I just mean you have to make finances become easy for you, and that ties into a third part, which I would say is be honest with your behavior. If you know you have impulses, like for me, a few of my vices is I like to shop, but I'm more realistic now. I don't believe in paying full price for everything, right? So I use that third step, if you will, whatever my vice or whatever my true desires are, that fuels my why, because I want to be able to afford to have and do those things versus feeling like I'm always restricted. Because if you have 1 and 2, but you don't enjoy the things that you really like, you're not going to do it. It's pointless. You know, you can only, what they say, you can only give your money, spend your money, or invest your money, which can be invest and save. Anything outside of that is not even an option, you know, so you have to have that balance. And those 3 steps, if you will, just kind of keep me balanced. And it's funny you say that, because I never really thought about it kind of chronologically, right, like that. And that's really how I operate every day, you know.
Oh, you know, and I think that's perfect. And the reason I wanted to push you at this, because as you know, when you talk about, say yes to your dreams, I mean, it's a lot more than just words. I was talking to someone yesterday, and They said, wow, that sounds pretty good. But I reminded them, babies dreams. And when they wake up, they're crying like crazy because they see the reality. So it's got to be
Oh
more.
yeah.
And you got to basically be able to implement it. And like you said, you got to know that why. You got to have realistic goals. And most important, you got to understand where those obstacles are going to be. Everything's
Yeah.
going to be blocking you. And most of the times, the thing that blocks you the most happens to be you. So it's just basically just
All
understanding
up here.
opportunities. Exactly.
Well, I like that baby picture you just pretty much kind of drew just now. I like that
Oh, yeah.
because honestly, um, I feel like when I was a kid, I was naive. I didn't know how the world really operated, and then I became an adult. And I'm not gonna lie, being an adult sucks. Yeah, I
Yeah.
got a driver's license. I can drink legally and do other things legally, depending on what state I live in. But it sucks. I want to be able to be a kid in the sense of like, yeah, I want to be responsible, being able to handle my business. But I mean, I want to make my inner child happy, and that's the part that I feel like tends to die in a lot of us as we get older because we become so serious and we become trapped by some of the things or lifestyle that we try and chase, and it's not as fulfilling as we thought it was. But now here it is, you're stuck. And we're just talking money. We're not talking about if kids are involved or you had a
Exactly.
nasty divorce or other
Yep.
legal things that can really alter your life to probably no recovery, man. But I don't know. I just like feeding my inner child now. I mean, it sounds immature in a sense, but I like feeling alive every day, man. Like I've been happy for a while now, and it's not to say like life has been so miserable, but I'm telling you, like this is my gift and passion. I don't know how far it's going to go, but it always excites me to even have conversations like this. You know what I mean?
Right, that's good. Well, I'll tell you what, what I want you to do as we close this episode, just to let whomever watches this understand, we're going to do this a lot more often because I love my son. I'm proud of him. I get good guidance from him. I want to be there for him. He's there for me. We've got some very good relationships going on. So I want you to just give a little shout out, even though we're going to try to put it in the description if I can, the name of your podcast, where they can find you on Instagram, etc.
Oh, okay. Well, I appreciate it. Real talk. Well, Great Life 803. If you just look that up on Instagram, that'll take you to my Instagram. Got a small following, but we're getting there. And if you click on the Buzzsprout link in my bio, it will take you directly to my podcast episodes. And funny enough, I've been doing this over a year now, and
Yeah.
I feel like now I'm actually getting better at making it easier. So when I was talking about doing stuff over the phone just to make it easier for people, but that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, that's where they can find me for anybody that's interested.
Very good. Okay, well, I'll tell you what, this is Big G. Just got through talking with Little G. Those are our little monikers that we share with each other. We're not going to go in an episode of why we do that. And again, this is Nate Robinson, Say Yes to Your Dreams, talking to my son, Nathaniel Robinson Jr., Real Talk Finances. Close the episode, and just remember, like we said before about those babies, but just remember a couple more things too. You're going to be the same you are today unless you consider and take action on something different tomorrow. Thanks a lot,
Yeah.
Rob. We'll chat with you later on. Have yourself a great one. And thanks to the audience that's watching. Take care.
All right. Love you, man.
Love you, man.
Bye.